Coming up next on the Jeff Crilley Show, we're going to put a spotlight on a fast-growing organization. It's called Young Americans for Liberty. We'll be talking to their marketing director next.
Many are predicting that the worst is yet to come, which is unfortunate, said one person here. Until now, they've enjoyed the reputation of being the nation's icebox.
Watched a burglar in his home this morning by webcam.
As a journalist of over 25 years, stories are what make my world turn.
Reporting live from the Dallas newsroom tonight, Jeff Crilley, Fox 4 News.
But in 2008, I took the jump from my familiar life and started a PR firm from my home.
We're talking about anyone with a camcorder like the one I'm using becomes a television network.
We started slowly growing the company, and we now have over 100 clients, and we've branched into the world of live digital broadcasting. I now own 8 different TV studios and have a huge team, and the stories that I now get to share are sometimes the most important of my life. Life has a funny way of coming around full circle. This is the Jeff Crilley Show.
Well, it seems like the legacy media only cares about conservatives and liberals. They talk about the Republican Party all the time. They talk about the Democrats all the time, but they don't pay enough attention to a fast-growing movement. It's the Liberty Movement. And joining us from our Austin studios is Peyton Hornberger. She is the marketing director for Young Americans for Liberty. Peyton, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, it's an honor. Your organization started how many years ago?
We started in 2008 as students to Ron Paul. We were founded by Jeff Frazee. He's the current CEO as well. But it started off as this robust youth movement growing out of the Ron Paul presidential campaign, founded on the first principles of liberty, anti-interventionism, free speech, Second Amendment, self-defense, and the power of the individual. And then in 2009, we became Young Americans for Liberty proper, and it's been growing ever since.
Okay, so I could probably go to the streets of Dallas or Austin and ask 10 people, what is a libertarian? And I'd probably get 10 different answers. So let's do Politics 101. What is a libertarian?
Yeah, great question. So, labels are pretty useful, and some people can really lean into that or lean out of it. But being a libertarian is saying, I want as little government intervention as possible. I do think that, most of us just identify as pro-liberty, especially in the pro-liberty movement, because there are so many different ways that we feel about, social issues or certain policy issues or the state or federal government. But really at the core of it, the liberty movement discriminates on nothing besides your level of trust in the government. If you don't trust the federal government to know what's best for you, then we're in alignment there. Some of us are more socially progressive or socially conservative. What we really want is less government in our lives so that we can live our best lives.
And I know your organization really took off during COVID. That was when the government was telling us where to walk, where to talk, who to hang out around, whether to go to church or not. Tell us about the COVID-19 pandemic and what role that played in the explosive growth of your organization.
When COVID-19 came around and the governments, both state governments and federal government, were telling different campuses and different institutions and small businesses and churches to shut down, YAL was at the front and center of being the opposition to all of that. We said, we're not going to take this laying down, we're going to stand up, we're gonna call it what it is. And during that time, there was so much growth for the liberty movement and so much awareness that was growing in that space. One of the things that we were super involved with was the campus, the college campuses, really. What we saw happening all during COVID was not just people being sent home, but when we started to return to schools, there were campuses that told students, hey, we're not going to mandate the vaccine. We had students that would pay their tuition, and then right before everyone returned to campus, they were like, just kidding, you have to get the vaccine or else you can't come to campus. And so you had students being completely removed from their medical freedom, completely. Not to mention the mask mandates, which we know are ineffective. And then on top of it, you also had universities like the University of Nebraska that required students to have these apps that would track their location of where they would go. And so if someone came back with a positive COVID test, it would track their location and it would indicate to the university where these people were. And these are public universities. These are public schools that the governments fund and subsidize, and we're just letting that all happen because we think it's okay. So YAL was active in saying, we're not going to take this. We, were able to get a lot of donor support, and we're really thankful for that. On top of it, we were that voice that was open to the students that were saying, we don't want to take this anymore. We don't want to just do what we're told. This doesn't seem right to me. We started seeing students feel more empowered after COVID, honestly. And I think that's been the transition into now, several years later, where people really are fed up with all of that, and they're seeing that there's an alternative, not to the left or the right, but true freedom, true liberty, which is you can't tell me what to do. I'm going to defend myself, and I have the right to that.
We're going to show your website, and as we scroll down the website, I want your thoughts on this. I think the founding fathers would just freak out if they saw how big government got. Isn't that the reason we broke off from Great Britain?
100%. And that's what we try to echo. Our values are rooted in the first principles of the Constitution and of free speech as like a fundamental, and then obviously the Second Amendment to back that up. We believe in private property and privacy, and we want to bring that back to the original plan of the founding fathers.
And I know you have regional events all the time, but there's one big event. We're going to show a clip, a highlight reel, and then I'm going to come back and ask you some questions. Let's go ahead and roll that now.
We just wrapped the 15th annual YALCON, where we taught 1,000 grassroots activists how to make liberty win. Students heard from their heroes like Dr. Ron Paul, Chip Roy, and Vivek Ramaswamy, Kennedy, Savannah Maddox, Eric Brakey, all brought down the house.
How's it going, YALCON?
For better or worse, we the people create a government that is accountable to us, not the other way around.
Do you have the backbone to stand up for what's right, and you get that person in office no matter what it takes?
You're not free if we live in an economy where the Federal Reserve manipulates American wealth behind closed doors.
Most recently, you may know me as the man who scared the hell out of the complacent Republican establishment by running for Congress in Texas this year.
People ask me, what should we do now? I said, why don't we get the people in Washington, the people that represent us, to read the Constitution? That would be a very good start.
They believe that they know what's best for us more than we do, and that they and they alone should be the authority that can dictate to us how we must live our lives. By rejecting freedom, they reject our Constitution and must not be allowed to be in power.
We are here for nothing short of a revolution.
Letting capitalism do what it does best, which is to create the highest standard of living the world has ever seen. Am I right?
You don't have to believe in Marxism or fascism. Those are not your choices. There's another choice, and it's called liberty. And that's what we're here for.
Where we preserve our liberties are in the States.
Coming to YALCON, I'm surrounded by people who are encouraging and they're fighting the good fight.
At Young Americans for Liberty, we're dedicated to finding the best and most talented activists across the country.
The students who attended YALCON are ready to go back to campus, take action, and make liberty known.
Wow, Peyton, it looks like there's a lot of energy there. You've been to several of them. Why don't you describe that event?
Sure. I love our national events. It is the most amazing time of the year. It's like our Super Bowl. It's the best time. We get all of our students from all across the country together. Previously, we've held these in Orlando, Florida, but we're changing the location this year. So stand by for that. But we get over 1,000 different students from all across the country to come down and celebrate. We get different VIPs, different
supporters and other activists that are connected to the Liberty movement, and just everyone who loves Liberty gets together to come to this event. What we do at YALCON is a mixture of training and also education, and then also mobilization. So we get everyone together to give them a great time. We have these awesome speakers, Vivek Ramaswamy, Tulsi Gabbard, Shelley Luther with a great testimony about, fighting back during COVID. Wonderful speakers, of course, Ron Paul, the legend, to get everyone super amped up about what it means to be a liberty warrior and to fight for liberty. On top of it, we take it a step further. It's one thing to have fun, but we also need to make sure that students and activists feel empowered and have the tools to actually take action. So we educate them on, just because your public school says that you have to get the vaccine, actually, technically, that's not allowed. And we give them the tools and resources to, advocate for themselves and say, I don't have to do this actually, and then we provide them resources. Same with like free speech battles, There's public schools that restrict free speech, which is obviously unconstitutional. So then we partner with different allies to
frankly, sue the schools and say, you can't do that to these students. And then on top of it, we bring that to their communities as well and say, if you are trying to help get, one of our big efforts this year is universal school choice. And so we talk to the students about what they can do in their own communities to go door knock and to advocate for certain policies that their state representatives are supporting to help move the needle for liberty in their communities and in their states. And so they're getting this real tactical training that's more than just, learning about the philosophy. That's one thing and it's amazing. You got to take it a step further and actually take action to see and achieve liberty in our lives and in the future.
And I was impressed, you were telling me before the show, the organization has really grown. How many members would you say you have now?
We have over 25,000 members of Young Americans for Liberty, and this is ranging from students to local activists to other, champions and supporters. The Liberty Movement is growing, and it's really amazing to see how many people are waking up to this other option besides the two-party system or the two parties or any alignment like that. It really is just so exciting to see how the transition in America is moving towards the liberty side of things.
And you guys put out a lot of content. I was on YouTube this morning preparing for this show, and there's just dozens and dozens of videos. We're going to roll some video from, I don't know if it's a podcast or just a live event that you were doing. Why don't you describe this one, Peyton?
Yeah, so the Student Rights Campaign is our department that focuses on finding those students' rights that are being overreached on. So mask mandates, COVID vaccines, free speech, all of that. Our team of Daniel Gonzalez de Bar does a really great job with advocating for these students' rights and giving them the tools to petition and put pressure on these campuses. We have almost 200 now student rights victories. So from free speech to eliminating COVID vaccine mandates, pepper spray bans. Another thing that's a really crazy thing that's happening on campuses in a lot of these public schools, big public universities, pepper spray is banned. It's considered a lethal weapon, and they have restricted it from the handbook, and a lot of people don't know that. And so our team works with these students to say, no, we should have the right to defend ourselves from pepper spray to tasers. And then actually in South Dakota, we're working on campus carry because it's a constitutional carry state. So we are on a full offense for restoring students' right to self-defense. So that's what we're talking about in that video. We're talking about some recent wins for restoring free speech, restoring self-defense to students, and giving them the empowerment they need to be an adult on campus and support their individual liberty.
And when you're talking to a student on campus for the first time who's never heard of your organization, is it a pretty easy sale? It seems like it would be when you start to explain your values. Do you get an automatic, yeah, that's what I stand for?
It's funny that you say that, because when I talk about liberty, I think it's like the simplest answer. I think this is the answer to everything is, less government and just more freedom. Don't hurt people, don't take their stuff. We should all be able to, defend ourselves. I think it's an easy sell. My favorite memories in college were recruiting for the organization and for my chapter. I was a chapter president, several years ago, and my favorite memories were getting out on campus. We would have different activism events and try to start the conversation about liberty to get people involved. And when you talk to most students, they either have one sense of what politics is. They think it's very right versus left. They don't think about that third option. They don't think about any other option because whether it's big media or just what they doom scroll online, or they just don't care. And so when we're faced with those two options, what we do is we'll try to strike a chord with them. Okay, if there's something happening that they really care about, we want to engage them on their level. So free speech is a great one that we always talk about. I mean, that's a great gateway. Also, being anti-war. This is something that everyone's kind of warming up to, is this idea that hey, violence and war is not the answer. Also, I don't want my taxpayer dollars to go overseas. And so this is a great way to talk to people as well. And you start to think about that trail and where their hard-earned money goes. Sometimes college students don't always see that, but when they do, it starts to wake them up and see, okay, what does liberty mean to me? What kind of control do I want to have in my own life? And how much am I willing to give up to the federal government? And so that really starts the conversation and gets people engaged.
All right, Peyton, we're almost out of time. This went by so fast. Why don't we have a call to action? If somebody is interested, what's the next step? How do they get involved?
The number one way to get involved is just to go to yaliberty.org. There is so many ways to get involved, whether you are a student, whether you are a supporter, whether you're just curious. There are so many ways and so many different avenues for you to get connected. The most exciting thing we have coming up, we have 4 different regional events going on in San Francisco, Atlanta, St. Louis, and Washington, D.C. So if you're near one of those locations, I strongly recommend you come out to get a real good taste of both the speakers, the energy of the Liberty Movement, to get some of that training, to learn about the tactics, to learn about how you can make a change in your community and in your state or on your campus. And if you also just want to know what we're up to and what we're about, you can check us out on any of our social media. We just had a super exciting announcement with, Tulsi Gabbard getting confirmed into the cabinet. We're super excited about that. She's a real, true liberty warrior. So we have a lot of content going out about her. And we just want to keep uplifting the champions that we do see that are making moves for liberty. So get involved on our website, come to our events. That's the best way just to get in the full spirit and get boots on the ground and learn more about the Liberty Movement.
Outstanding. You've been an amazing guest. We're going to have you back again soon. We're going to end with the website, which again is yaliberty.org. The great Peyton Hornberger. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you so much, Jeff. I appreciate it.
You bet. That's it for now. We'll see you next time.